Step into Mind Matters, where we reveal the high-stakes world of CEOs, from their first-day jitters to game-changing strategies, and equip you with invaluable insights and practical advice essential for your personal growth and leadership journey. And now, Mind Matters. Let's step in.
Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Kendall today, and we're so excited to have to our podcast a remarkable guest who has a wealth of knowledge and expertise as the CEO of Amplify Credit Union. Please put your hands together as I'd like to welcome Kendall Garrison to the show. Welcome, Kendall.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Well, first of all, I want to start off with, I think that is an awesome name that you have, Kendall. Starting with, I might be a little, biased to it. But what I would like to do, Kendall, is I would like to have all of our listeners understand a little bit of your journey. So if you wouldn't mind giving your journey that has some of your personal information in it, personal accomplishments, your business accomplishments, and where you started and how you're here today, would be wonderful.
Right. Sure. So I'll tell you that I became CEO of Amplify in January of 2020. And for those of you keeping score at home, just about 9 weeks later, the world sort of changed when the pandemic showed up. But there are plenty of interesting stories that go along with that. But actually, I just celebrated my 14th anniversary at Amplify, and I am in my 45th year in the banking business. So I've been doing this a long time. I've seen a lot of business cycles come and go. It has been an interesting journey. And I often say I'm closer to the end of the journey than the beginning of the journey. But it's been a great ride and a great career, and I've really appreciated all the great people I've had to gotten to work with, all the great teams that I've been on over the course of my career.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Kendall. So let's help everybody with a little bit of an understanding. You said in 2022, you were coming on as the CEO.
Actually, 2020, I became CEO. Yep. And before that, I served as Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer here at Amplify. And I was the only direct report of our CEO. And so I essentially ran the business, the daily operating business for Amplify for 4 years before that. And then before that job, I was responsible for lending. Most of my career I spent as a lender. And my joke is that I have lost money in every possible way you can lose it by lending it to people. So, a number of those bad decisions turned out to give me good judgment over time. So,
well, cut and measure is an important part, isn't it? And, you only learn from your mistakes. But let's jump into that for a little second about 2020. Yeah, pandemic hits. Holy crap! Now you're. Explain what was going through your feelings, your thoughts. Help everyone understand what you were thinking.
It was certainly an interesting time. I sat down into the chair on January 2nd, full of optimism and full of hope and full of all sorts of visions about what our organization could be. Of course, I'd been here for 10 years at the time and really knew the players, knew the people, knew our processes really well. And then, in late February, we start to hear rumblings of the virus in, hotspots like New York and, of course, in China, and never really thinking that it would become a situation where on March the 17th of 2020, our mayor issued a quarantine order to stay at home for everyone in Austin, Texas. And so, we came to the office the next day, picked up our laptops, our dual monitors, and our office chair, and we went home, thinking we'd be gone for 2 or 3 weeks. Actually turned into months on end. And so just before the pandemic struck, our head of lending left. And so I was really doing 2 jobs. I was filling the CEO role, and I was the de facto head of lending here at Amplify. And so the person that we put in charge of pandemic response essentially said, hey, you're a single point of failure doing two jobs, buddy. You're not going anywhere. And so I essentially didn't leave my house until a vaccine was available for, months and months and months. So it was tedious. It was nerve-wracking. It was completely uncharted territory. As I said, I've been in this business for 45 years, and I have been through every business cycle, every recessionary business cycle, the housing recession, but I've never been through a global pandemic, and we're just making it up as we go every single day. And fortunately, I have a great team of senior leaders that we huddled every day, and we talked about what our next move was going to be during the pandemic. And, there were plenty of unexpected twists and turns along the way.
Absolutely. That is an incredibly tough time to be going forward. And pandemic, it comes with pandemonium. And with all of your people, like, oh my goodness, what did they do? How did you handle their mindsets to bring their mindsets into, the days of, I had to be in my office, I have to be at my desk, is turned off in one day, but their mindsets still haven't been changed there. What kind of methods, what kind of ways did you help them to come along with it? Because it's not always that simple.
This episode is powered by Honest AI. Honest's optimized onboarding process and minimized documentation result in an expedited and seamless financing journey for clients, enhancing their contentment and commitment. Through identity verification, financial data validation, and creditworthiness assessment, our software empowers companies to make well-informed financing choices.
So for reasons that weren't clear to us in the 18 months or so before the pandemic struck, we set up the network infrastructure, the security infrastructure to operate in a fully remote environment. We didn't really know why we did it, but we weren't one of those organizations that were tied to desktop computers. Everyone had a laptop. Everyone had a VPN connection. We had plenty of telecommunications bandwidth, the ability to use Teams or Zoom to communicate. And so we were fortunate because we had the infrastructure ready to go, and we didn't really miss a beat. But one of the things that we had to do was we found out that we had to communicate in different ways. You don't have those hallway conversations where you can bounce an idea off of one of your colleagues. And so you have to be intentional in the way you communicate with your peers, with your direct reports, with the frontline employees. And so we completely readapted the way we communicate with people. We have a belief in what we call radical transparency here at Amplify. And that means no question is off limits. There are no state secrets. And so when our employees come to work on the first day, the first thing they do is they get my cell phone number with an invitation to reach out to me by text message if there's anything that they need from me, because I really only have one job as CEO, and that job is to remove the obstacles to their success. And if I'm going to remove their obstacles to success, they have to be able to communicate with me. So they can reach me by Teams, by email, by text message. And we even set up an anonymous question portal so people can submit questions to me, and I answer them in a public forum without attribution to who actually asked the question. And so we think that changed the game for Amplify because so many companies went into secretive mode. We went the exact opposite direction with our commitment to radical transparency.
You must have found that your team must have really embellished or grabbed that, to enjoyed that, because now they'd be here, they are being heard, they'd be in a position where now it's about them growing as a team. That must have really strengthened your team, and seeing from the bottom up to all the way to the top, I would think that your directors would be very impressed with that, and that would help you even with them. Was there anything you comment on that, Kendall?
So it was interesting because people didn't believe it until they lived in it for a while. And so they didn't believe that, yeah, this really is my cell number. And yeah, I really am going to answer when you send me a text. Yes, you ask a question that would be completely off limits in any other company, and we answer it. So, yes, you're right. Our directors had not seen that sort of a commitment prior in the organization. And again, frankly, I think that's one of the things that made us successful during the pandemic. And even over the last 4 years, every subsequent year, we have had higher employee engagement scores. As a matter of fact, in 2023, we had the highest employee engagement we have ever had at Amplify. And so that tells me we're doing something right.
That's excellent. Well, not only do you care about your employees, and it shows very much, Kendall, when you open the policy like that during the tough times like that during the pandemic, but I also looked at something that is very, very unique compared to any other bank out there. And that's that you have a no-fee bank where you're not charging the clients fees. Want to elaborate a little bit on that, Kendall?
Yeah, we do. And so we actually approach the world a little bit differently. We are not like a traditional credit union where we try to be all things to all people. We are only in businesses that help with wealth creation for our members. And so we think it's really important that we focus very narrowly on the 4 businesses that we're in. The one that you're referring to is fee-free banking. And so it is impossible to get a fee on any deposit account that you have at Amplify for any reason, because we are essentially borrowing our depositors' money so we can lend it to borrowers so they can buy homes or start businesses or whatever the case may be. And so we think it makes 0 sense for you to pay me so I can borrow your money. This is completely what's wrong with banking. And so we're going to change banking or we're going to die trying. And so if you overdraft your account, guess what? We advance it into the overdraft for you and we don't charge you a fee. If you need to wire transfer money to a title company to buy a house or to another account or to an investment account, guess what? Everybody else is going to charge you $25 to do that. We charge you 0. If you need a paper statement, no cost. If you have a returned item in your account, no cost. So we are the only full-service financial institution in America that is completely free of deposit fees. So that's kind of a tongue twister, but and we've been at this for 2 years, and all the naysayers said, "Oh, you can't do it for this reason or that reason or the other reason." Well, guess what? We did it. And we had been more successful in each passing year by walking away from those fees. As a credit union, we're built around improving the financial lives of our members. And it does not improve the financial lives of your members to charge them fees in that way. And we just don't want to make money that way. That's not the kind of business we are.
Well, that shows your leadership and your growth. That shows how you lead. And our listeners will get a lot of value out of that. That, let's face it, the ones that are paying the majority of the fees from banks are the clients that need the money the most, right? It's like, oh, I need $10 to eat here, $10 to eat here, $10 to do this. And if each one of the 10 has come to the $2 or $3 charge, that's not really helping them. So I like how you put the values and the morals of your actual clients up front, where you're working for them versus the other way around. That's a message that comes to me and hopefully to our listeners as well.
Yeah.
Kendall?
Well, the only other thing I was going to add is that, banking in a lot of ways is reverse Robin Hood. It's taking from those of modest means to subsidize people that have money. And again, this is exactly the opposite of the way that a credit union should work. And so we just want to flip the model on its head.
So let's talk about growth now, because you've done a great job. You've brought a culture on where everyone's listening through the toughest time. You've got everybody working. You're helping the clients out. You're saving them. Well, you're going to look to want to grow and continue growing, as everybody does and every business wants to do. How does technology play a role in that for you? How do you see that?
Well, so it's interesting. Credit unions, in a lot of ways, are a product of their original heritage field of membership. Our heritage field of membership were IBM employees. So we started in 1967 as the IBM Texas Employees Federal Credit Union. Man, that name rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? And so our heritage field of membership has always had a technology first worldview. And so Austin is obviously a technology hub because the second largest Apple campus is here. Oracle relocated their headquarters here. There's a big Cisco presence, still a big IBM presence. Dell is headquartered here. And so our member base are very technology oriented. And as we have just turned on product offerings, they've had just amazing adoption by our members. And as a matter of fact, when I got here 14 years ago, we had about half the number of members that we have now. And we were doing about 50,000 transactions a month in branch. Now we are doing less than 9,000 transactions a month in branch because everything has moved to remote and mobile. And we actually consider ourselves to be a remote and mobile first credit union. So we have about $3 billion in assets under management, $1.5 billion on the balance sheet, $1.5 billion off the balance sheet that we manage. And so it's interesting because we only have 4 branches, and credit unions that size usually will have 20 or so.
Interesting. Why haven't you, as a branch, as a CEO, how do you know what product to expand with? How do you know what to grow with? A lot of CEOs are like, okay, so what's your process to figure that out, Ken?
So, we have a set of core values that we use to evaluate our product and service offerings, right? And so we actually also take the old Jack Welch maxim that says if you can't be number 1 or number 2 in a particular business, don't do it. And that goes into another maxim that we have, which is don't play games you can't win. And so we couldn't win in indirect auto lending, so we exited that business completely. We didn't think we could be a product differentiator in credit cards, so we sold our credit card portfolio. And so, again, narrowing down to focus on the products that build wealth. For example, we are in the mortgage banking business. That is probably our primary business. And the reason we do that is because the median net worth of a homeowner is 40 times greater than that of a non-homeowner. And if we have an obligation to improve their financial lives, what better way than to get them into their first home, to be sure that they're homeownership ready, to get them into their move up or their next move up or their move up after that. We're in commercial lending, so we help people start small businesses. We're a really good commercial lender. We've got a fantastic team that is focused on that. We're also in the loan servicing business. So we originate far more loans than we can hold on our books. So we sell them to other credit unions and to banks. And we're servicing loans for 140, I think, banks and credit unions around the U.S. And so what we're doing is putting earning assets on their books, and they're paying us a fee to service those loans for them. So what could be better? A better business model, another financial institution paying us a fee to service loans that we've originated for them. It's a great business model. And then, of course, the fourth is our fee-free banking business. So,
those all fit very, very well. And there's, the thing that we used to have a lot of was a lot of things in our life, and one of the major things we had was time in our life. And as we get older and as we get busier and as you're growing your company, you got more and more people working with it. Even though it's just 4 branches, you have to be very tight with them. How are you handling work-life balance?
So we did something that most people did not do. After the pandemic began to subside, we made the decision that we were going to embrace remote work as a key tenet of our business. I happen to be in the office today, and that's just because where I live, there's a construction project in flight today, and it would be kind of loud for us to have this discussion. But we also gave our employees the opportunity to work from anywhere in the United States. And before 2000, we only had maybe 1 or 2 remote employees. Now we have employees in 22 states. And so most of my day is spent in a Microsoft Teams meeting or in a Zoom meeting, and allowing people to work in a way that suits their schedule. And so we didn't want to make people conform to a work schedule that only works for a small group of people. And so we have lots of employees that they have young families, and so they're caregivers for their children. Caregivers for their aging parents. And so, getting in a car and being somewhere at 9 o'clock and having to leave at 5 o'clock isn't really conducive to having a decent work-life balance. And so we don't really care when you work or how you work, as long as the work is done. And there is no objective measure that tells us that we are less effective today than we were before we embraced remote work.
I love your philosophies, Kendall. I think they are true. It's not about how many hours you put in; it's the quality that you put in when you're there. And that mentality has changed, especially with the younger generation. When I say younger generation, younger than myself. And when I was at work, it used to be the school of hard knocks. Here's how it was: you sit there, you do it. The younger generation has a little bit of a different feel on that than that. So this fits in well with them. And I can see how you're adapting your bank to work with the new lifestyles of life. So that is a very interesting. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Kendall?
I think that there may be a downside to remote work, but that remains to be seen. And that downside is, when I was a young professional and I was in the office every day, I had peers and I had mentors that I could just watch their behavior and figure out how to exist in a corporate environment. And so if you're in your first or second job out of college, you might be a bit at a disadvantage in that way. And so one of the things that we do to overcome that is we have what we call a culture conversation. And so our Chief Experience Officer, Stacy Armijo, and I jointly host these. And that will be 10 or 12 employees from around the organization. And it's an hour and a half. We do this a couple times a month. It's an hour and a half. And we talk about our mission, our vision, our values, where we see ourselves falling short, and how we can do better and how we can improve. And so I think that is a little up close and personal mentoring that most people that are in a remote environment or even a hybrid environment don't take the time to do. And so I think that will help us overcome this and get our younger, less seasoned than me employees acclimated to what Amplify is all about.
Well, Kendall, you're the first CEO that has come to me and said, yes, the people are doing online, the remote working. There's lots that are doing the remote working. But the first one that has actually said, you know what, we got to look at more than that and mentor them as well and have this piece looked after inside. And I think that is something that our listeners, I hope you hear very loud and clear. It is a very strong part of leadership. I'd like to thank you for that. We've come to an end of our time, unfortunately, because I'd like to ask you many more questions, Kendall. But I'd like to reserve having you be able to come back another time if possible with you. This has been so informative, and I believe our listeners got a lot of great information, not only about your bank, but about you. And they can see how the two of them actually fit hand in hand, because Your bank is a direct relationship of how you set it amongst your employees and your customers. And from what we see, fantastic job. So thank you very much, Kendall, for spending the time with us. I have one last question for you, and it's a total out of the wallet question. If you were to be an animal, which animal would you be, Kendall?
Oh gosh, which animal would I be? So if I were going to be an animal, it would be a bald eagle. And I don't really know why I give you that answer because, but other than it's a majestic creature that projects strength. So there you go.
That is an awesome answer. And if you get a chance, please take a look at my LinkedIn because you will see that I use the bald eagle for my and it's not just the top of my head. Okay. So thanks very much for your time, Kendall. Our guests have been very lucky to have you here. And as we want to thank you for it again and look forward to speaking to you again, Kendall. Thank you.
All right. Kendall, thank you for your time, and I appreciate the chat. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. If you found this conversation valuable, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. We will see you next time on Mind Matters.